All right, so you want to dive deep into content marketing.
We're going to cover a lot of ground today.
You're probably here because you want to figure out what actually works, right? You
Mhm.
want to cut through all the noise.
Exactly.
And we have an expert here today who can help us uh, decode all this.
Well, I'm excited to be here.
I think it's really interesting because content marketing is, a long game.
Yeah.
It's not about making a sale right away.
Yeah,
It's about building that trust.
absolutely.
It's about authority, like you were saying.
It's about becoming that go-to resource.
Yeah,
So the trusted advisor.
instead of like shouting at people with ads, you're trying to become the friend they trust for advice.
Right, exactly.
But how does that actually work?
Well, think about it this way.
I mean, we all see so much content every day.
Yeah, so before you buy something,
How do you stand out?
especially, a big purchase, you probably do some research, right?
Mhm.
You read reviews, compare features, you watch videos. Content marketing is about positioning your business, your brand, as that helpful resource, the one people naturally gravitate towards when they need information.
Okay, so it's like anticipating what questions people have and providing those answers before they even ask.
Yeah, that's a big part of it.
But creating all this content, building a strategy, that sounds incredibly daunting.
It can be.
Where do you even begin? I mean, I'm already feeling overwhelmed just thinking about it.
I hear you. It can feel like a mountain of work.
Yeah.
But one of the sources we have actually breaks it down into these manageable steps.
Okay.
And it all starts with really understanding why content marketing matters in the first place. We need to move away from thinking about it as just churning out, blog posts or videos,
Mm-hmm.
and more towards building those relationships, fostering that trust.
Okay, so it's more about connecting with people on a deeper level.
Exactly.
But how do you translate that into an actual strategy? What are the concrete steps?
It's a process, but it doesn't have to be overwhelming. One of the sources we have breaks it down into, like I said, these manageable steps. First, you need to define your goals.
Okay, goals, yeah.
What do you actually want to achieve with your content marketing?
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to increase brand awareness? Is it about generating leads? Do you want to educate your audience?
Yeah,
You need to get really crystal clear on what success looks like for you.
that makes sense. Set the destination before you start the journey, right?
That's a great way to put it.
But what comes after you set those goals?
Well, next you need to really understand your target audience. I mean, really understand them.
Okay.
What are their needs?
Yeah.
What are their pain points? What keeps them up at night?
Mm-hmm.
What are they aspiring to? And this is where these detailed buyer personas come in.
Okay, hold on. Explain buyer personas. I've heard that term, but
Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure I understand what it means.
So think of a buyer persona as like a fictional representation of your ideal customer. Let's say you're a local bakery. Your ideal customer might be, let's call her Sarah.
Okay.
Sarah's a 30-something professional, loves to bake, but she's pressed for time. She follows food blogs, she watches cooking shows, she's active on social media. She's health conscious, but she still has a sweet tooth.
I know that, Sarah. I
Yeah.
feel like I know her.
Right, exactly. So you create this, rich profile. So
Okay.
you know exactly what kind of content will resonate with them.
So it's like creating a profile of your ideal customer.
Uh-huh.
So you know what they're going to respond to.
Yeah, so you can really speak directly to them.
Okay. But what if you have multiple types of ideal customers?
Yeah.
You have a few different Sarahs.
You create multiple personas.
Okay.
This way your content can speak directly to each of those segments,
Gotcha.
making it much more effective.
So you have your goals, you figure out your audience.
Right.
Now what?
Then you can start actually developing a content plan.
Okay. Yeah.
This includes deciding on the types of content you'll create. Do you want to do blog posts, videos, infographics, podcasts?
So many options.
And you'll need to plan out a content calendar to ensure that you're posting consistently.
That makes sense. Consistency is key, right?
Absolutely.
Like if you're not showing up regularly, people will forget about you.
Yeah, you lose that momentum.
It's like building a habit for your audience to check in with you.
Right.
But this brings me to something I think our listener might be wondering. Do I have to be creating content all the
Yeah.
time? It feels like there's this pressure to constantly churn out stuff.
That's a great point.
It can be really overwhelming.
And you've hit on something really important that one of our sources emphasized: quality over quantity.
Okay.
It's far better to create a few pieces of high-quality content that truly resonates with your audience than to flood their feeds with, mediocre stuff.
So it's not about being the loudest voice, but the most insightful one.
Yeah, I like that. Think quality, not quantity.
But what does high quality even mean when it comes to content? It seems subjective.
That's where things get interesting.
Yeah.
It's about finding that sweet spot between providing real value to your audience, crafting compelling narratives, and understanding the nuances of different formats.
Okay, unpack that a little bit.
Sure. For example, a high-quality blog post should be well-researched, insightful, easy to read.
Okay.
It might include data points, expert quotes, actionable takeaways. Give people something they can actually use.
Okay, so it's not just about throwing words on a page.
Mm.
There's a real art to it.
Exactly.
And how is it different for, say, video content?
Well, video is all about visual storytelling. A high-quality video needs to capture attention from the first frame, tell a compelling story, be visually engaging.
So thinking back to our bakery persona, Sarah, a high-quality blog post might be like a recipe for a healthy yet delicious seasonal dessert.
Exactly.
And a
Yeah.
video might be a quick tutorial showing her how to decorate that dessert, right?
Yeah, that.
Okay, so it's about tailoring the content format and style to your audience's preferences and the platform you're using.
Exactly.
Okay, now this is starting to make sense. We're getting into the nitty-gritty here, which I love.
Me too.
But before we move on, I want to touch on something you mentioned earlier. Compelling narratives. I know people are drawn to stories. But how do you actually weave storytelling into content marketing?
That's where the magic happens, right?
It does feel kind of magical.
It's all about tapping into that human element. Think about it. We're all wired for stories. It's how we make sense of the world, how we connect with each other.
It's so true. I'm a sucker for a good story.
Aren't we all?
But how do you make, say, a blog post about accounting software feel like a captivating story?
It's about finding that human connection. Instead of just listing the features and benefits, you could share a story about a small business owner who was struggling with their finances, right? They were overwhelmed, stressed, maybe even losing sleep over it. Then they discovered this accounting software. And it was like everything changed. Suddenly they have more time, less stress, and they can focus on actually growing their business. See, now it's relatable.
Okay, I see what you mean. You're not just selling the software. You're selling the transformation.
Exactly.
You're making it relatable, like you said.
Yeah.
But we're bombarded with so much information these days.
Oh, yeah.
How do you make your content stand out in all that noise?
Visuals, visuals, visuals. They're absolutely crucial. Think about it. Would you rather read a long, dense article or watch a short, engaging video?
Video, for sure.
Especially if I'm trying to learn something new.
Right, exactly.
Our brains are actually wired to process visuals much faster than text.
That makes sense.
So incorporating visuals into your content, whether it's images, infographics, videos, it just makes it way more appealing, easier to digest. It can make even complex information so much more accessible.
It's like they say, a picture is worth 1,000 words.
It's true.
But there's also a ton of videos out there. How do you make yours stand out?
Well, that's where things like, storytelling, pacing, even humor can come in. And of course, high-quality production values can make a huge difference. But even with the best visuals, the most compelling story, there's one more crucial element: authenticity.
Ah, authenticity. That word gets thrown around a lot. What does it actually mean in the context of content marketing?
It means being genuine, being real, People can spot a fake from a mile away.
Yeah.
Think about a time when you saw a brand trying way too hard to be something they're not. It's instantly off-putting, right?
Oh, totally. It's like that time I saw this bank trying to use slang on social media to appeal to a younger audience.
Oh, no.
It was so cringy, I unfollowed them immediately.
Yeah, I get it. Authenticity is about being true to your brand values and voice. It's about building trust by being transparent and relatable.
So you're saying don't try to be something you're not.
Exactly. Just be yourself. People will appreciate it.
Okay, so we've talked about creating high-quality content. We've talked about making it engaging, making it authentic. We've talked about storytelling, visual.
We've covered a lot.
But how do we know if all this effort is actually working?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It really is.
You poured your heart and soul into creating this amazing content. You're posting consistently. But how do you know if it's actually moving the needle?
Yeah, it can feel like you're just throwing things out into the void and hoping something sticks.
It can. That's why it's so important to measure your content's performance. You can't just rely on guesswork. You need to track key metrics to see what's resonating with your audience and what's not.
So you're talking about data-driven content marketing. I like the sound of that.
Exactly. It's about using data to refine your approach.
Okay, so data-driven content marketing. But what kind of data are we talking about? What should we be looking at?
Well, there are a few key metrics you want to keep an eye on. Engagement's a big one.
Engagement. Okay.
How many people are liking, sharing, commenting on your content?
Right. That tells you how much people are actually interacting with it.
Okay, so engagement tells us if people are actually interested.
Right.
What else?
Website traffic is another important one. Are people clicking through from your content to your website?
Hmm.
And once they're there, what are they doing? Are they signing up for your email list? Downloading a resource? Making a purchase?
So it's not just about getting eyeballs on your content, it's about driving action. What else can we measure?
You can also track things like, how much time people are spending on your content. If they're bouncing off after a few seconds, that could be a sign that your content isn't engaging enough.
Oh, okay.
Or that it's not relevant to their interests.
So it's like, you're a detective, right?
Yeah.
Looking for clues to see what's working and what's not.
Exactly. You got to analyze the data.
But then what? What do you do with all this data? You use it to improve your strategy. Let's say you notice that your blog posts about a particular topic are getting a lot of engagement and driving traffic to your website. Well, that's a signal to create more content on that topic.
So it's like a feedback loop. You put content out there, you see how people respond, you adjust your approach accordingly.
You got it.
You're constantly learning.
Always learning, always refining. That's what makes content marketing so dynamic and exciting. It's not a one-time fix. It's an ongoing process of experimentation and optimization.
I love that. So this has been so insightful. I feel like we've covered a ton of ground here, from the why of content marketing to the how and the what to measure. But before we wrap things up, let's distill all this information down to the most actionable takeaways for our listener.
Okay, sounds good.
What are the key things they need to remember to succeed in this content marketing world?
Well, first and foremost, you've got to know your audience. What are their needs? What are their pain points? What keeps them up at night? Once you understand your audience, you can create content that truly resonates with them.
It's like that old saying, walk a mile in someone else's shoes.
Yeah.
You have to understand their perspective to create something that truly connects.
I love that. Yeah, empathy is key. The next key takeaway is consistency. You need to show up regularly for your audience. Whether it's posting on social media, sending out emails, or publishing new blog posts, consistency is key to staying top of mind and building that trust we talked about earlier.
It's like building any relationship. You wouldn't ghost a friend for weeks and expect them to still be there, right? You have to nurture those connections.
So true. And don't be afraid to experiment. Try out different types of content, different formats, different styles. See what works best for your audience and for your brand. What worked for one business might not work for another. So find what feels right for you.
So embrace that spirit of curiosity. Try new things.
Exactly. And remember that content marketing isn't a solo sport. Don't be afraid to collaborate with others, whether it's guest blogging, co-creating content, or simply sharing each other's work. You can learn so much from other creators, and it's a great way to expand your reach.
Yeah, collaboration over competition, right?
Absolutely. And finally, stay up to date. Stay up to date with the latest trends and technologies in content marketing. This is an ever-evolving field, so you need to be willing to adapt and learn new things.
It's like anything else in life. You've got to stay curious and keep learning. Okay, that was a lot to take in, but it was all so valuable. Now, before we wrap up this deep dive into content marketing, I want to leave our listener with a final thought-provoking question to ponder. We've talked about how important authenticity is in content marketing. But in a world where everybody is trying to grab our attention,
Yeah.
how do you create content that actually stands out and makes a lasting impact?
That's the question, right?
It is the question.
It's one that I think every content creator grapples with. There's no easy answer.
Right.
There's no magic formula. But I think it goes back to something we touched on earlier, really understanding your audience on a deeper level.
Okay, so you mean going beyond just their demographics and really like getting in their heads?
Exactly. It's about understanding their motivations, their aspirations, their fears. It's about figuring out what makes them tick.
Yeah.
What are their hopes and dreams? What keeps them up at night? When you understand those things,
Yeah.
you can create content that truly speaks to their hearts and minds.
So it's about connecting with people on an emotional level,
Yes.
making them feel seen and understood.
Precisely.
Okay.
Think about the content that has had the biggest impact on you.
Mm-hmm.
The books, the movies, articles, songs, even social media posts that have stayed with you long after you consumed them.
Yeah.
What did they all have in common?
I mean, they probably made me feel something, you know? They
Yes.
made me think, they made me laugh, maybe they made me cry,
Mm.
or question my assumptions, like they just connected with me on a deeper level.
Exactly. They weren't just trying to sell you something or tell you what to think.
Right.
They were inviting you into a conversation, a shared experience.
Yeah.
And that's what great content marketing does.
Okay.
It sparks a connection, it ignites a conversation, it leaves a lasting impression.
It's like planting a seed.
Ooh.
You nurture it with valuable content, you water it with consistency, and you just watch it grow into this, thriving relationship with your
I
audience.
love that analogy.
Just popped into my head.
That's beautiful.
Uh,
So,
and just like a garden, content marketing requires patience and persistence, right?
yeah,
You won't see results overnight.
no.
But if you stay committed to providing value, building those authentic connections, you'll reap the rewards in the long run.
Okay, so for our listener who's ready to embark on this content marketing journey,
Yeah.
what's the one piece of advice you would give them to navigate this exciting, ever-evolving world?
That's a good question. Big question.
Don't be afraid to be yourself.
Mm.
Let your unique voice and personality shine through in your content.
Okay.
People are drawn to authenticity.
They are.
And remember, content marketing is a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah.
Be patient, be persistent, and most importantly, have fun with it.
I love that.
Have fun.
Those are words to live by.
Definitely.
This has been such an insightful deep dive into the world of content marketing.
It has been fun.
I feel like we've just scratched the surface, but I hope our listener feels empowered to start creating their own engaging content
Me too.
and building those meaningful connections.
Absolutely.
It's all about connection.
It is.
Now, we've talked a lot about creating content that resonates with your audience,
Right.
and I know that can feel very abstract sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with this. Think about the brands that you truly connect with. What is it about their content that keeps you coming back for more? Chances are they've figured out how to tap into those deeper emotions and create a sense of community around their brand.
Makes sense?
That's the power of content marketing done right.
That's it.
Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive for another exploration into a fascinating topic.